Howdy. Let's begin. I think that's how it's spelled. Wait for a couple people to pop in. Until then, let's pull out this together. We're going to give it a few minutes and then we're going to start. Because, without a doubt, there's some crazy shit going on out there. Yep, crazy shit. But when did that ever stop a psychopathic politician? Did that stop? Food on a magnet early today seems to be working. Glad to hear it. I'd like to go upstairs. So, still not the most comfortable person doing this kind of conversationalizing, but I try. And a lot of the reason why I try is because, your heart gets heavy at some point and you gotta do something, right? You gotta have a conversation about it. And I guess I could go see a therapist if I really wanted to, but more importantly, wouldn't it just be better? Just hang out with maybe some friends, maybe some guests, people, and see if we can have a conversation about this and see if we can kind of explore some of my thought processes on this. Give me 1 second. I'm going to go get some water for this, and I'll be right back. Little wet palette going. Let's take these off. So, and my parents were pretty mild mannered when it came to talking about a lot of this stuff. We never talked a lot about politics. They had their political views, and I certainly, when I was younger, I kind of absorbed a lot of their stuff. But we forge our political views based on what reality throws our way. And reality has thrown some very interesting stuff this last year and change. Yeah, it's obviously very painful to see a world that you're going to be leaving to your children, and the world is literally on fire. Growing up, I remember when we were dealing with, like, will the US and Russia go to war? The Soviet Union at the time, will they go to war over, flip this over with nuclear weapons? There's a massive concern about that. And I remember being young and getting nervous about it. And, flash forward to the future, and you're like, why? And I was a kid at the time, so I was in my, teens, 82, 83, 84. Hey, Kevin, good evening. I was in my mid-teens, and I was like scared as fuck that we're going to see, nukes lobbed at us. And we're going to do the same thing. And now we're living in a place in a time where we're kind of back at that place. We're back to when, that stuff, that fear of things kind of like coming to an end, coming about. Mixing paint. And one might think that, the world's not going to explode in a nuclear holocaust. Maybe, maybe not. But certainly the world we're going to leave for people that are my children is not going to be a good one. I get worried. I mean, I'm, like I said, everybody knows I'm 60. But you got people who are much, much younger, who I hang out with in the mornings on the live stream. They're young. And they got kids too. I got kids. What world are we leaving for them? We're leaving right now. We're leaving right now a place where empathy is no longer considered something important, where the rule of law really comes down to whatever comes to top of mind for some person, one person. It's fascinating that this parchment style paper just keeps curling the wrong effing way. Stop curling. Okay. Let's see if that stays down now. Anyway, so what kind of world are we going to leave for the next generation or two? We a few weeks back, and I had a interesting conversation with people on the live stream in the morning about, I have we just spent time with the lovely little newborn. What kind of world are we going to leave for that kid? Hey, Damien. Good evening. How are you? What kind of world are we leaving for them? If the normalcy is what's going on in reality right now, this is not a good thing. This is not good at all. So, anyway, we'll do a little bit of a deeper dive in just a second. Just trying to see who's going to be popping in. I think if we get most of the paint off of this should be fine. Good. One of my speech teachers, he said he's going to give me some Gundams so I could build. Nice. That's cool, Damien. Good for you. wait another 5 or so minutes, and then we'll start on the big conversations. Okay, glasses. Time to dry brush. Yeah, it's come out pretty good. Things come out really good. Okay. Lightened up the rest of it a little bit, but I don't care. That actually looks pretty realistic. There was one gun on my the gun thing that you were trying to build. Oh, I built more than just a few of those. A gun thing that you were trying to build, yeah. There's a bunch of those. Okay. That dry brushing is done. This we can actually get on. We can get onto the model. So red-handled. Or not. I have no fucking clue. No, it was a big one. It was when you were building, it looked like it was like a gun thing. What was that? I don't remember which one that was, Damien, now. How long ago was that? Okay. Set that down. I think we're just about ready to glue this thing in. I just got to trim that back piece off. So, glue this piece in, and then we're going to dive in. Oh, shnikes, that's not what I want to do. That's it. Got it. Let's see. You put a character inside of it. Which one was that? All right, now you got me kind of like thinking about this. It was a big gun thing. The only one that I can think of was the dendrobium, which is like massive. I started working that, oh God, it must be close to a year ago. I will get back to snapping that up at some point. But yeah, that's the big gun-like thing that I think I was working on. And it had a Gundam that kind of piloted it, but it was like the Gundam was like this big, and everything else is like this big. It's massive. So, all right. Like I said, we're going to glue this in and we're going to get started. Sorry, give me a second here. I'm just trying to get this thing settled into place. I think that's it. There we go. Can you even see that stuff? Yeah, you can barely see it. It's in there. There we go. Dash is in, dry brush and everything, and it looks good. I may need to touch that upper edge a little bit, but we can get to that when we get to the painting. All right. Let's put this away, and then we're going to get, like I said, we're going to dive right in. And whether or not people watch this live or at some later point, that's on them. Nobody wants to watch this, that's fine too. This is my way of being a little bit cathartic on this. All right, so where does one begin? Let's start with, it is shocking to me the number of Americans who are completely okay with, it seems like one constitutional amendment after another is getting attacked, but not just attacked. The acceptance of it being pulled from us is completely okay. I don't understand. I don't understand how anyone can look at that and just say, that's fine. So in this last week, I heard a very interesting, it's like, it was 4 amendments, starting with the First Amendment, freedom of speech. I mean, we're seeing a massive, aggressive amount of defamation. We'll get back to that in a little bit. The ability to squash free speech. If you're speaking, you can be shot. If you protest, if you're in the press, you can be ridiculed, reviled, defamed. Second Amendment. Why don't we table that one for a second? Fourth Amendment, which is the one with about due process. There is no due process anymore. Judicial warrants be flushed down the toilet. Hey, Joe, stick on ice. Exactly. Judicial warrants are no longer fine. The Constitution indicates that you can. Administrative warrants do not work. You cannot. I can't. It is unfathomable to me that in order to have a check and balance, that our checks and balances are created in a way that one power checks itself with another. So everything stays in some level of equilibrium. But when you have a rogue department that is rogue in that it is allowed to be rogue, not that it independently is, it is being created to go rogue. It is going out there and doing this kind of like unbelievable stuff. And it can do it with its own authority, not with judicial authority, with its own authority. I don't get this. And that people are okay with that. Well, what's wrong with it? An administrative warrant is perfectly fine. No, that basically means one group that you belong to says, oh, we can go do that. No, that's not how it works. You have to go to a judge to get a warrant to do some of this shit. Washington County, where I live, made a law saying no federal agent cannot act without warrant and notice to local. Yeah, Joe, that's all well and good. Define warrant, because currently in our judicial system, if you have it, the ICE can go in on an administrative warrant, and the administration is basically saying, "Yep, that's fine." An administrative warrant means ICE can say to ICE, "You can go in and do that." They don't have to go to a real judge. They go to their own internal judges, signed by a judge. Hopefully, and again, let's make sure that we're correct. We're talking about a judicial judge, meaning not a judge inside of like ICE has their own judges within their own department who report directly to the president, as opposed to the third branch of government. That's a separate thing, and that's what we're trying to get to. You know, you've got to go to the third branch. You don't go internally to your own judges. No, that's not how that works. Okay. And then the last one is, I got to tell you, I'm going to show this notice as local as well. Nice. Yes. Yes to what, Damien? And then the last one is the 10th Amendment. I mean, for fuck's sake. You know, the language that I heard this week, if this doesn't disturb, first of all, we'll get to that Republicans are about as fucked up as they can possibly be right now. Yes, that's the one I'm talking about. Okay, the dendrobium. Great. So let's start with when you have the president announcing that the states are basically I forget the exact word he used, but they're basically an affiliate of the federal government. Again, somebody does not know the Constitution, has not read the Constitution, and if he has said, I don't care, my own morality is going to be the law. And that is absolutely fallacious. Okay. If people right now are not scared to death about any political party, any leaders basically saying we can control elections at the federal level, which goes against the Constitution, okay, they can say that, something's wrong. And that people aren't in the streets literally screaming about this is unbelievable, because this is the most fundamental thing. When you have a group of people in power who will do anything to stay in power, including go in and violate constitutional laws, and people are like, that seems to be fine with me. Ain't bothering me. Super Bowl's on this weekend. We got problems. We got serious problems. And it will come back to haunt us. I got to tell you, the further and further we go into this year, the more I've got an optimism, but I'm also scared that what we are ultimately going to end up with is a political party that dictates, one party dictates what's going to happen in our elections. And I'm going to just say one thing. If you have not studied history and realized when you have only one party rule, all individual freedoms get tossed out. Okay? You take a look at one party rule in other countries currently. You take a look at historically one party rule in Nazi Germany. And you take a look at one party rule in communist Russia. Take a look at one party rule in communist China. You tell me what's going on there. Hey, Charles, what's going on, brother? They say they know the Constitution, but they make up the words. Yeah, exactly. Exactly, Joe. Good tune, by the way. Check. That's exactly it right there. So I'm kind of, and I want to go back for a second. Oh, you're working? Yeah, I guess you're on, you're still doing that overnight shift, right, Charles? And let's just end with this one, the one that I kind of glossed over for a second. People who know me know I believe in the Second Amendment. I believe there need to be rules and guidelines to be able to kind of control some of it. But I believe in the Second Amendment to a degree, right? When I now hear the federal government saying, guns can't be carried everywhere, I'm like, holy shit. What happened to the Republican Party, the party of federalists who believed in state laws over a federal government? What the fuck happened there? Picked up extra yesterday and today at another facility, then back to my Friday. Oh, God. Holy shit. Are you really doing that much overtime, Charles? Wow. New law president must make the opponent his vice. I think there's something to be said about that. Yeah, fuck my governor. Well, fuck your governor if you want, but I'm talking about even from the president on down. Dude, violation of four constitutional amendments. I mean, honestly, for a person, anybody who puts their hand on a Bible or whatever religious book you believe in and says, I will faithfully execute the laws of this country and follow the Constitution, and then twist the Constitution to their own belief system. Fuck precedent, 250 years of precedent, or actually it's less than that. But fuck, 220, 30 years of precedent. I'm just saying that dumb bitch let the power go to her head, making tons of restrictions. Yeah. What kind of restrictions in particular? I don't know enough about your governor or your state's individual politics. I'm sorry, Charles. But I just want to go through this once again, one last time. Sorry, guys, I'm just looking at something here. Yeah, it's off a little bit, but I'm not gonna fuck with it too much. Give me 1 second. Okay. Yeah, actually, it doesn't look too bad. Sorry, I just want to real quickly show you guys. I did glue in the dash. I painted it, got it all done, and it is ready to go. But when I hear about all these constitutional things that are happening right now, from freedom of speech, freedom of the press, all of that stuff, when I'm hearing about, gun rights and the concerns that, people can't carry guns, on them, they can't have clips and everything like that. I'm like it or not, our Constitution allows for that. And you as a president, or you as again, what in God's name is going on with Republicans who are also saying, oh, yeah, you guys can't do that. You can't carry guns like that. Oh, my God. Well, one is banning a certain type of videos. You can watch rated X, which, okay, sure, whatever. Then starts restricting nicotine juices and vaping turns. I'm sure there's more I can't remember right now. Interesting. Yeah. Well, we all have our preferences to some of that stuff. Not going to disagree with you. Didn't Kyle Rittenhouse? Kyle Rittenhouse was actually, yeah, exactly. Kyle Rittenhouse walked into a situation like that, and, he was praised by the right. And even he turned around and said what the president came out with was wrong. Not even getting a voice in it all. Yeah, Charles, man, I'm sorry to hear that, man. I don't know, enough about your governor and your state and that kind of stuff. It's unfortunate, man. But, there is going to be a balance. There has to be a balance between doing what's right for the individual and doing what's right for a group. And that group can be a community, that group can be a state, that group can be the entire country. In fact, you can actually broaden that and saying the entire world. Okay, you have to find the balance. And I think we've always had a difficulty trying to find that balance. Hi, I missed a bunch. Yes, you did, but that's okay, Dwayne. There has to be a balance between individual rights and what I call communal rights. Okay, what's good for what's the common good, and the common good is not what's in it for me. What the common good is, what's in it for all of us. Okay. So you now have, between complaining about having guns, complaining about, people speaking out against them, and maybe we should have their FCC license taken away from them because they're bitching about me, saying that the elections need to be federalized because states are basically an ancillary to the federal government. And then basically, we don't need judicial warrants. We can do whatever we want. I mean, guys, I want you just for a second, take the politics, the political party out of it for a second, and think about what we just described. If you take all of those freedoms away, think about, is that the United States or is that another country like Russia through the communist era, China, okay, Hungary, okay, some crazy ass dictatorship down south, okay? Think about that for a moment. No gun rights, even though our Constitution allows it. No ability to have a judicial warrant because all of it's done by one person and one group of people called the administrative administration versus judicial warrants, okay? Controlled only by one group of people, one group controlling politics through that one party system, taking away the liberties of us to be able to speak without potentially being sued, okay? All of that going on. Guys, I'm just saying again, I don't care what party you're part of, but just think for 1 second. What does that sound like? And if anybody says, well, that sounds like the way the United States is or should be, I believe you have a fundamental misunderstanding of how this country has existed for the last 250 years. Fundamental misunderstanding. They can write any memo they want. It is still not legal. And legality be damned. When we've now created, remember, guys, how many people here have seen Escape from New York? I remember when I first saw that film back in the 80s, and I thought to myself, because they're talking about, that the federal government created the U.S. police force. And I'm thinking to myself as a young guy, how old was I? 16, 17, 18. I think, that sounds pretty cool. Why wouldn't you want a police force? Because if it becomes controlled by one person or one party, you can use that against the states in the situation that we're now experiencing. Watch Escape. LA, same difference. Yeah, same thing. You still have the same thing going on. But my point of it is that we are now in a place where the government is creating its own police force with ICE and Border Patrol and flushing away judiciary norms. And some people might say, yeah, but we're getting bad guys out. I'm not going to argue that whether we're getting people out of this country, that to me is a moral question. I have a very distinct answer to that, and I know I'm right, and the rest of anybody who believes against me is wrong. But let's just assume for a second that the judiciary, let's just assume for a second that there's a moral authority to do that. How they're going about doing it, I'm talking about strictly constitutionally, is so wrong. It is so wrong and blatantly problematic. And people are just like, that's okay. I don't understand. I'm going to say something that is probably going to offend a lot of people. And the older I get, and maybe this is the get off my lawn kind of thing. Maybe I'm getting to that grumpy old man age. I really am a grumpy old man. Americans are stupid, or certainly they're working towards becoming ignorant. And as opposed to taking the time to learn something, I don't care what side set comes with me with something. Somebody says X happened. Did it really? My first question is, how'd you find that out? Why did that happen? I ask questions. I am blown away by the number of people who just blindly follow whatever is heard across any political spectrum. Now I'm going to table that for a second. I'm going to read some of these things. I'm just trying to get as far as they can to maintain control before Trump checks out, but there's really no way to enact what they want because they don't have the support. There's really no way unless people are too scared to carry on. People aren't too scared. People are just not willing to do anything. Escape had a happy ending. Yeah, it did. Over 50% of the people ISIS detained have not committed. It's actually even higher than that. It's much higher than that. CPNIs are running out of room because they don't have the lawyers to keep things together. The courts will. Yeah. Again, see, Dwayne, this is where you're making a fundamental mistake. Okay. Ignorance run thick. I would say more like sprinting. Yeah. Oh, I was being conservative. Yeah. So, okay with the media bubble where they literally have those reality. But even if you're like, I follow a certain, if you want to call it political bubble, right? I follow a certain political bubble. I mean, a political bubble, you know, but at the same time, I hear stuff coming from my side and I always question it. Like, oh yeah, there's like this guy is universally hated. You know, he has a 90% hate rate. I'm like, is that true? I'll Google it. I don't buy into anything. If somebody throws out something that sounds like fact and they can't back it, I don't care what political party you're in. The unfortunate thing is people just buy it on both sides, but certainly on the wrong side. They're buying into this whole shtick. And the reason I think a lot of people are buying this stuff is because, well, of course we want to keep, because I'm financially hurting. I'm losing my job. It must be the other's fault. And when you're told it's the other's fault, you start to believe it. If you don't take a moment to realize that you're being conned. I mean, honestly, you're being conned. So I always say to somebody, if you give me a statistic, you better fucking back it with fact. You know, oh, there's we took in $18 trillion in tariff money. Show it to me. Show me the balance sheet. They're not going to show it to you. You know, gas is now at less than $1.99. Show me where. I mean, legitimately, somebody take photos, not retouch photos. Show me where. And then how many gas stations are like that? So if you're going to start spewing this kind of bullshit statistics, country has never been in a better financial place. Again, can you give me the statistics? Because everything I'm seeing and reading from a statistics perspective, that is not the case. Even my own eyes. I walk into a grocery store. Funny that loaf of bread last week, give it a few months back, was 79 cents cheaper. That pound of beef, don't eat beef, but I see it. It's like, ooh, that thing's gone up a few bucks a pound. So this is starting to change. And people, I don't understand how people are just so blind to it. I'm going to get back to Dwayne's point in just a second here. Political identity. People are strongly hold themselves to having their partnership as part of their personal identity. Don't want to listen or believe. Yes, states just need to coordinate, and CBP is cooked. The Army won't help them either. Ugh, personal pricing. Yeah. So, Dwayne, I'm going to challenge you. I think if you, honest to God, believe that the president isn't going to do what he's doing, he's already sent the FBI, as an example, down to Georgia to go raid Fulton County's ballots from 2020. You've already got ICE agents everywhere. Oh, but they can't do anything because they don't have lawyers in their department. Why do you think that's going to stop them? I'm trying to figure this out. It's like when you've got irrationality, when you've got such disdain for the common, for the Constitution, when it's like, this is, Fuck the Constitution. It's wrong. People shouldn't carry guns. You know, I'm gonna sue all these people because they said bad things about me. Did they defame you? Prove it. Okay. I'm gonna we don't need what they call it. God, sorry, I'm getting so far ahead of myself now. We don't need habeas corpus, any of that stuff. They're automatically changing the dialogue. They're changing the narrative, and they're normalizing it. And when we started down the path of, you know what? Hey, Texas, I want you to find me 5 more seats in the House of Representatives. Gerrymander. Okay. And I know California did the same thing, but California countered Texas. Do I think what California did ultimately is wrong? Yes, I do. I don't think we should ever gerrymander. I'm done. The whole gerrymander thing is bad. But unfortunately, I'm also of the belief is if you allow for it to happen on one side, you better be finding a way to fucking counter it on the other side. They may have max 8K ICE agents. They might disrupt things in 1 or 2 places, but they don't have the manpower to police polling places everywhere. Again, I Dwayne, from your mouth to God's ears, is all I'm going to say. But if you think that they have only 8,000 people is going to be enough, it's not going to be enough. Yeah, once you start declaring martial law and you can militarize things, whether there's going to be backlash from that or not. Yeah, I think you're going to see that. National Guard gets called in, military forces get called in. If you and I'm sure there are also going to be police forces that are going to be, you know what, we're supporting ICE and Border Patrol, which literally is, just so we're on the same page, that is the National Police Force now, under the direction of a DOJ that is literally an extension, as opposed to separation from, an extension of the president. So no. Sarah is coloring that picture. You want an 8x10? Yeah, I do actually. The games allows you to station 2 ICE agents at 4K polling places. Yep, which is enough to scare away a number of Hispanic voters. Not even to scare them away. All you have to do is have one person who is weaponized to cause damage. So let's say just start, you know what? I was attacked. I opened fire. I just took out a bunch of people. Now you don't have just Hispanic people. You've got everybody in that precinct just running away. And guess what? That guy was protecting himself. He's covered. Everybody who kind of got shot and killed and was trying to vote, they were domestic terrorists. We're already seeing the playbook. National Guard and military still have their code of conduct. You saw it backfire on ICE in Minneapolis. Okay, Dwayne. Dwayne, again, I'm sorry. Maybe you're coming at this from a very positive perspective, that you believe that there are still firewalls. I believe that there are next to none right now, that those firewalls are coming down if they haven't already. You also don't need to hit all polling places, just targeted ones in critical areas. Exactly. So there's enough out there between, and keeping in mind that you could always deputize people. So you got the Proud Boys, you got the Oath Keepers, all those guys are now like, fuck yeah, you want us to be deputized, you deputize us and we'll go out there. Now your military force has just grown. So again, I'm not trying to be, maybe this is paranoia, but I think part of it is, this is again, part of the thing I think that Americans tend to forget. Start with, think about where we were in the first Trump presidency. Think about where we're now after the first year. Okay. And every time he says, well, people say, I should do this, he starts the conversation, and very shortly that conversation gets echoed and it becomes a very talked about point. And then the president says, of course I'm going to do that. What sounds like stupidity. Oh, I hear that I should probably invade Venezuela. I guess there's a lot of there's a lot of bad stuff. There's a really lot of bad stuff happening. Let's go invade Venezuela. We've invaded Venezuela. So that's what I'm getting at, Dwayne. It's when you have that level of power and you have a Congress that absolutely has abdicated all its responsibilities to the president. It's like, sir, what do you want? We're going to do that. Oh, you want to fuck me up the ass? Sure. Here you are. You want to go have my daughter? Yeah, all yours. They will give their firstborn for this fucker. And they will do whatever he says. Doesn't the Electoral College make the vote? So he is looking at the popular vote, dumbass. Yeah, but it doesn't matter, Joe, because the states can also certify the Electoral College. And if they say there's been something that's been defrauded, the states can. And this is what he tried to do down in Georgia. He tried to find me 50,000 votes so we can change the Electoral College. It wasn't a popular vote. It was to change the Electoral College. I think this whole thing is anxiety. It's valid. I'm just watching ICE lose numbers because they're not getting paid. I see Congress holding things up unless and again, Dwayne, I'm hoping you're right, and I'm hoping we're going to see that. Right now, I think when you've got that venomous snake in Stephen Miller, when you've got Trump and his narcissistic ways, and you've got all these sycophants underneath him who will do anything in their power to placate him and do whatever yes sir says, we're going to do it. When you have all of that, and you've got a person, what was the term that I've heard? The founders of our country created a our entire form of government with at least one very important thing, that whoever is in a position of leadership will at least do right by the country and the Constitution. I don't think they ever envision that you're going to have somebody like this ever get voted in and then have the backing of of a bunch of his sycophants, meaning the House of Representatives and the Senate, his entire party, completely bowing to his needs. Yes, there are people who are not agreeing with him. I know that. But overall, they're bowing to his needs and are saying whatever you want is yours. Really, we go invade a country. That's a declaration of war. Where's Congress? Where's Congress in all this? Oh, all the oil money we're putting in a Qatari bank just for now. Are you effing kidding me? And Congress isn't saying, no fucking way. Set polling stations to intimidate and prevent voting, and then a guide abuse to the FBI and the pulpit thrown into question the results of Congress, the excuse to ignore the results of the election. Exactly. Yeah. See, exactly, Robert. Electoral College can vote against the one time in 2006 voted for James Edward. No kidding. And I have propagandists throw into question as much as possible, probably also with AI generated videos to create fake fraud examples. Yeah. So here's what it really comes down to. Americans, in my opinion, we're going to start wrapping this up. Americans, in my opinion, do not have enough wherewithal to understand what is going on right now. They do not understand the constitutional crisis that we are now pretty deeply into. They do not understand what all of this means because they are being fed through, their own bubble, their own media bubble, what to believe. And instead of just saying, let's check other sources additionally, they're being lied to, and by probably the world's greatest. I mean, if we're going to say one thing about Trump, I'll give him the highest praise. He is the greatest grifter this planet has ever seen. He could sell anything to just about anyone, and they'll buy it. He is by far the greatest grifter. They are going, but these people are losing power. People going along are quitting. The redistricting has worked against Repubs in a major way. We'll see. Let's see what happens in the elections, Dwayne. I've got to tell you, in the next 9 months, I think, given what's going on right now with the preparation that Trump is doing, maybe it's paranoia, but given the preparation that he's doing, going down to Fulton County now, no, he's getting ready to find a way of questioning the validity of the next election, questioning it. And by doing so, he's going to find that 2020 was rigged, and we'll find another way of doing that. So here's a suggestion for anybody who, a guy that I enjoy watching. I enjoy watching Brian Tyler Cohen. Yes, he is part of my left-wing media bubble, but he interviews Mark Elias, who is a phenomenal lawyer. And when you listen to the stuff that Mark Elias, who's in 80 cases right now, working on trying to shut down this lunacy that's going on. And when you got him as a constitutional lawyer going out there and just be like, there is some bad shit brewing. Anyway, his illegal seize control. And that's exactly what he's going to do. I mean, this is what I'm trying to say, but the law will stop him. The law is just a common belief of stuff. It's writing on paper. The law isn't a rifle. The law isn't an atomic bomb. The law isn't a fist. The law is a set of written ideas or ideas. If somebody says, yeah, I don't want to do that. Okay, you don't. Oh, it's illegal to drive while intoxicated. And funny enough, people still do it. But it's illegal. But they still do it. Just doing the courts takes so long, and then what's up? Yeah, it was rigged. He did it. Yep. Look up Heather Cox Richardson. She's less propagandy than BTC. I'll look her up. I still like BTC a lot, and she's local to you. Really? Law is after the action. Law isn't prevention. No, it's actually, I think it is prevention, because if you know the law, then it will be a guideline to you so you don't violate what are considered, laws are set down to be principles that we need to follow. Laws are made for honest people. Yep. Listen to the news and they raise their voice or talk fast. It's not news anymore. Oh, I agree. This is why I like Midas Touch, but I also kind of I question a lot of what they say. It's because I understand it's at times it becomes hyperbolic. But Brian Tyler Cohen, I love his interviews, especially when he talks to Mark Elias and Glenn Kirshner. Highly recommend it. But Heather Cox Richardson, thank you. Only if you care about the law. If you don't, it's a method of punishment. Yes, but that's exactly what it was. I think the framers of our country, the framers of the Constitution, the founding fathers, they thought that anybody who rises to this level of leadership will be a faithful servant to people, to the Constitution, to the laws of the country. You're not going to have him or them, meaning the president and Congress and others in other forms of government, basically saying, we want to undermine all this. Before I forget, let me just snap that up. Yeah, reminder for myself to look up Heather for you. I don't think everything's good as far as because what Skywriter's saying, let these people bury themselves. The only way they're going to bury themselves is if there's a tide turn. And yes, the tide is coming, but at the same time, when you have this amount of power, and let's be honest, financial power, military power, armed power, sycophants, so you got people power. You don't need everybody. You just need enough. When you've got all of that working for you, you can do some significant amount of damage. So, and Dwayne, we've already experiencing that. Take a look at the what's going on in the rest of the world right now, where everybody's, I mean, how many countries have lost faith in us, are trying to realign themselves elsewhere because we are not a good partner. That's damage that it's happened. 2 people in Minneapolis being shot and killed. That's happened. A woman being shot 5 times and then being photographed by an ICE agent saying, "You're my like a trophy." You know, that's happened. So yeah, we'll pull back from it at some point. I hope it'll be in my lifetime, but I'm still up until this whole thing starts to change. And there are too many people who are still saying it's okay. I'm okay with this. And they're pushing the, and then you got the influencers who are pushing that narrative. I don't think we're going to see change, the kind of change that you're expecting anytime soon. I hope I'm wrong. Dwayne, just so you know, I want you to be right, and I want to be wrong. I will gladly buy you a beer, multiple beers, if you are right and I'm wrong. I'll buy you beers if I'm right and you're wrong. Why? Because I'm going to need to get plowed so that I can just kind of survive whatever's left of our world. He'll do damage, no doubt, but they won't pull off a third term. There's no one that has Trump's ability to avoid consequence, and he's, let's be honest, deteriorating right in front of us. It doesn't matter, because it's the mistake that keeps getting made is we keep thinking this is Trump. This is Project 2025. This is more than just Trump. This is everything to do with an entire government agency and a number of people who just have more hatred in their hearts and have no problem in creating this kind of chaos. They just happen to be feeding it through a conduit, is my opinion. Did I hear beer? Yes, you did, Mike. In fact, I'm going to have a beer after this. I think I'm going to need it. Oh, man. Mike, how are you, brother? Good to see you. Anyway, this is all I'm going to say, guys. I'm going to leave it with this, all right? I'm starting to start, and I know this is a politic, like Thursday nights are politics. The rest of the time, it's usually morality, but this is politics. I just want you guys to just, once again, take a few moments and just think of just a few things. Take a look and see what's happened with the First Amendment, the Second Amendment, the Fourth Amendment, and the 10th Amendment. The ability for us to speak our minds, to be able to protest, to be able to voice our opinions, to be able to speak freely about our views on government and not have repercussions from that. First Amendment. Second Amendment, love it or not, we can carry guns. Okay? And therefore, if we're being told, no, you can't carry a gun, violation. Fourth Amendment, due process. All right? Due process, my friends. Everybody, judicial warrants, not administrative warrants. You have a right to be able to challenge what is happening to you, whether you're a citizen or not. That is a fundamental right in our country and our Constitution. Loving the ornithopter. Oh, yeah, the ornithopter's coming out great, Mike. And then the last one, states' rights. Republicans used to be federalists. They used to believe in states' rights. That has all changed. The states are now basically an arm of the federal government. That is not true, my friends. Constitutionally, it's not. So think about just those 4 amendments that have been violated and are continually being pressed by our current regime. And I just say to you, think about what governments look like governments that take away those 4 fundamental rights to us. And you're going to find that's not America. Okay? So with that, I'm just going to leave with this. I did get some work done. There we go. You can see the little dash in there. It's been painted. Everything is done with it. So I did a little model work. It's not just a bitch session. But with that, my friends, I'm going to tune on out. I got to get that etch set for mine. Which etch set? Oh, for the ornithopter? No, your local laws for Second Amendment in your state. Absolutely. I agree. But Mike, I'm going to leave it with this. Know your laws, know your rights, People know their rights in Minnesota, and they're still being violated. And the federal government's like, this guy shouldn't have been doing that. Whoa! So much for the Republicans and being pro-gun rights guys. Stay safe and stay sane, everybody. Thanks for being on today. I really do appreciate it and giving me this conduit to do this. Guys, I want everybody to understand. I know this always comes across as a politics, a left and a right, conservative Republican versus left-wing Democrat. In many ways, the fundamentals of it are human decency, morality, of which I think we've lost track of. I will encourage everybody to do things. Sometimes use your heart, use the kindness. Every Wednesday, every Wednesday, Mike ends his session with "Be good humans." Absolutely, I agree with that. Be good humans. That's the hard part. But also, question. If something doesn't sound right, it's probably not right. Okay? Or if it doesn't sound right, research. Maybe it is right. Do your research. Question. If somebody says something, ask a question. And George got the bus done for Prime, so no matter what, he's going to know. Yay! ODO, 3 weeks away. All right, guys. Don't be stupid. Exactly, Mike. All right, guys. So with that, go out there and do good. Brighten the world as much as you possibly can. Show kindness, love, respect, all those decent things that make us humans. Go out there and do that for the other, whoever the other may be. They don't have to be like me, like us. They just have to be whoever they are. Just show them that kindness and love and respect. All right? Do good, guys. Enjoy. Love you all. I'll catch you tomorrow morning if you're on. If not, I may do this next Thursday. Thursday's always a crapshoot. But do good. Love you all. Catch you on the flip. Peace.